Welcome everybody to the Week 1 recap of Division 1. My name is Aurora, coach of the Schaumburg Hunters, and I am joined this week by...
Yo, what's up? I'm Whiteloaf. I'm joining Aurora. I am the coach of Loafville Lanterns, and we are doing the Week 1 Division 1 analysis.
Yeah, we're gonna go through each of the 4 matches that have played out in Division 1 this week. Going to look at some of the things players did well, some of the things that went wrong, and hopefully, give some constructive feedback to some people. Maybe point out some fire sets that happened, some hype moments, and it should be a good time. So, where are we gonna start off, Nick?
So we are gonna start off with Maryland Manectrics and Minnesota Magikarps.
We are the Claire versus Firebolt.
Claire being the coach of Maryland Manectrics, Firebolt being the coach of Minnesota Magikarps.
This match was it had a very tragic end. It ended in a 2-0 victory for Claire. And if you sort of from the start, both of them sort of got off their hazards real quick. Firebolt just getting the stealth rock, while Claire got stealth rocked and several layers of spikes.
Yeah.
And they're both sort of constantly forcing each other into switches.
Another big thing, just to note, is immediately right off the bat, Claire manages to get off a reflect. Which
the Gladly sets up a reflect early. It allows what Pokemon is it that comes in early?
Swampert comes in pretty fast, so Swampert can't really do
anything. Swampert comes in, and even though it earthquakes Klefki is able to live with it because of the reflector was set up earlier, and allows Klefki to just keep on stacking the spikes.
Yeah.
And from there, these hazards never go away. Neither of them ever bothered to get rid of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure why either. Firebolt does have Corviknight, which definitely could default. Although maybe he was scared of either Galvantula or Rotom coming in, just hitting it for massive damage, or even Chandelure, actually.
Yeah, Corviknight didn't honestly seem too great against Claire's team, except for super hard walling Excadrill, and sort of sitting on Tyranitar, and maybe sitting in front of Klefki, but those don't do much to each other, really.
No.
But you sort of end up in the situation where both teams are constantly switching, being worn down by their opponent's hazards. Claire actually had the foresight of bringing Chandelure with heavy-duty boots, so Chandelure is not taking any damage each time it switches in, and is actually very threatening to Firebolt's team.
Yeah, the only thing that really kind of walls Chandelure is honestly the Guzzlord. Guzzlord's got that fat HP stat, but it really doesn't have anything else really going with it.
Yeah, and speaking of the Chandelure and stuff that can wall is sort of the turning point of this whole match is late in the game. Tyrantrum is in on Firebolt's side. And what is it in against?
So it starts off against a
it starts off against Excadrill, yeah, and yeah. Claire very greedily goes for a sword stance on her last turn of Sands. And Tyrantrum knocks it out immediately with a close combat. Yeah. Then in comes
Galvantula. Bolt switches, goes to Chandelure, but Firebolt misses the head smash, which is...
Firebolt went for head smash and it missed, and that ended up costing him as from there Chandelure swept. But the question really sort of is that Tyrantrum... yes, it sucked that head smash missed 80% accurate moves, and that's something you really want to be relying on. But given that both Chandelure and Galvantula were both pretty low, just an Earthquake or any neutral move, any just basic Dragon move, could have knocked both of them out.
Yeah,
so it was really sort of an unnecessary risk that Firebolt sadly took.
Yeah, I think if I'm gonna be honest, the more I think about it, I don't think he actually had Earthquake. He might have swapped it out for close combat just so that way he'd be able to hit Rotom. But even then, there's still not really a reason to not have it, just because
Yeah,
it hits literally everything that Claire has. Like even if we look
except the
outside of
Rotom.
like the stuff that she brought, yeah, like, except for the Rotom. This doesn't give the name. Well, so either way, like except for the Rotom, Earthquake
Yeah,
would have hit and probably killed most Pokemon.
yeah, it's weird. Tarentum only ever revealed Head Smash and Close Combat, so there's a chance one of those moves left unrevealed might have been Dragon Dance, and there's a chance one of those moves might have been Earthquake. And even going for Dragon Dance on the turn Galvantula went for Volt Switch. You know, Galvantula really did not have anything that would ever knock out Tyrantrum in one shot.
Yeah, that would have been just kind of a free setup, and then it would just
Yeah,
sweep with Earthquake for sure. Then
yeah, sadly, Firebolt did go for Head Smash. It did miss, and Clara ends up coming out on top with 5 kills on Chandelure, by the way, which is now the league's kill leader at the moment.
Ella Chandelure.
Shout out to Chandelure. This thing is so good.
Yeah. Another thing that you had mentioned earlier was neither side really tried to make predictions. They kind of just attacked what was in front of them. Neither of them were really going in for like the long run.
Yeah, neither of them were making like any big read plays. There's several turns or several times where Ludicolo is in, and it really would benefit from like just going for like Surf or Scald or whatever modern move it might have had to chip down, which would have hit anything except for Rotom. And even if Rotom came in, it wouldn't have done a lot against Ludicolo.
Oh.
So it really leaves you sort of questioning like why didn't Firebolt go for more moves? Because there is actually a turn where Ludicolo goes for Giga Drain and Claire switches in the Chandelure. Had it been knocked out there, I feel it would have been pretty safe to say that Firebolt probably would have come out on top in that scenario, but he just never went for it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely a moment where you really gotta like think about like weigh your options and be like, do I want to try and hit the mon that's in front of me, or do I want to, risk going for something else and at least hit something for neutral, or at least get a little bit of chip? Because even if he had like Quick Scald on like Rotom, he still could have gotten the burn, which would have actually helped a good bit in getting rid of the leftovers recovery. I think it has, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a possibility that Ludicolo could have used, or could have set up Rain, which would have forced Tyranitar to come in and potentially be knocked away by a Focus Blast. I think Ludicolo gets Focus Blast.
I think it does. At the very least, it doesn't appreciate either Ludicolo's stabs, even in
Yeah.
sand.
Like regardless, it would have probably been a better play than just spamming Giga Drain, knowing that there's 3 Pokemon on Claire's team that resist that.
Yeah.
Whereas there's only one that resists water type moves. I think that's about everything for this match.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else to really add on. So if you're ready, we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, the second match took place between the Minnesota. I keep forgetting the team name.
It's
the Minneapolis Magnezone versus Dumblespood Army. There's too many M's.
There are. Who is Minneapolis Magnezone again? I'm so bad at remembering.
It's
like,
Mass.
It's Mass. Okay, so that's Mass and Dumblespood Scoots.
That's Scoots, yes.
Yes.
So we sort of had like a newcomer, someone who has not played any or a very limited amount of competitive Pokemon in his life versus Scoots, who has been in hot contention for grabbing the whole draft league, just never quite been able to reach it yet.
Yeah, so kind of like put this in like a good perspective. The way that I see it is there are like the legendary DDD players, IDM, yourself. There's more I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but like those like the 2 biggest one right there. Scoots, I would say if he's not like legendary, he's like pseudo legendary.
Scoots is definitely up there. I feel Scoots has definitely been robbed before. I know Scoots went like nigh undefeated, I think season 2. And then I happened to knock him out twice in season 2, because season 2 was kind of weird. We had a double elimination playoffs, and I happened to end up double eliminating Scoots.
Yeah.
It was very
Scoots
unfortunate.
is a very skilled player, and Mass, I don't know if I've ever actually seen Mass play Pokemon, to be honest.
Not sure he has. I do know that like he went into the whole drafting things, claiming that he was just gonna be drafting Pokemon that he liked. I feel his draft came out okay. I feel it has answers to most things. I mean, Mew pretty much is an answer to a lot of things, assuming it's built right.
Yeah. I do like in this team preview, you got like Mew just kind of hiding behind Metagross's legs.
It's shy. It's gonna come out later.
Yeah, it's not ready.
But yeah, this match immediately went off to a rough start when after both of them traded rocks, Rhyperior just goes in for Swordshands and just starts decimating Mass's team.
Yeah.
First, it kicks off by one-shotting Gigalith. Then Sandslash comes in, which is able to Earthquake first, and then gets Earthquake right back and killed. And then Jolteon comes in, throws a Shadow Bolt out at it, and gets killed in return again. And the only thing that ends up taking it down is the Toxic that Gigalith put on in the first place.
Yeah. So this is definitely a situation of, this person does not know too much about like Pokemon quite yet, which is not great, because if he had opened the calc, just once, he would have been able to figure some of this stuff out, figure out the damage numbers he needs. He also forgot to take into account that in Sandstorm, rock types like Rhyperior do get a special defense buff, which is probably why he wound up living the Shadow Ball. Now that I think about it. The next thing is, and this is actually something I just now noticed, it seems like both Sandslash and Jolteon were boots.
Did they?
Yeah, because neither one of them took Stealth Rock damage. Like, if you go back and you look at the
right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And while I don't think that's bad, especially for Sandslash, typically, like, I think having boots on your spinner is actually a pretty good call. But Jolteon, you definitely typically want it to have a special attack increase. So typically you want to run Specs, or if you're scared that something's going to outrun you, you could even do Scarf if you really want to. And I actually think
Orb, if you want to be able to still switch items. Actually, Jolteon has one more neat option which you can actually run. It can run Flame Orb, and then trigger its Quick Feet ability.
Yeah, that's also a pretty good one. And I actually think that either like Scarf or the Flame Orb Quick Feet actually would have been a better option. Not necessarily here, but it would have actually helped against Spectrier. It was just something to kind of keep in mind.
But yeah, the match takes off. Rhyperior kills 3 of Mass's Pokemon, then eventually succumbs to toxic damage, leaving Scoot at 5 Pokemon and Mass at just 3.
Yeah,
and coming back from that point is really hard, especially since Scoots hadn't even brought out any of his other Pokemon yet.
Mass has literally traded 3 Pokemon. Situation no one wants to be in, whether you're someone who's been playing this game for like since it was made, or someone who just started playing Pokemon for the first time.
Then
the next thing is something that you mentioned, is good old fashioned Scald and Misty Terrain. It's just something that you don't really typically want to see too much.
Yeah, Tapu Fini is a little bit interesting. When it hits the field, it brings out Misty Terrain. Misty Terrain prevents any Pokemon that is grounded from being status, or paralysis, burn, sleep. I think freeze too.
Yeah, any status.
That's it. Like any status is prevented while Misty Terrain is up, and the Pokemon in question is grounded, so no levitate, no flying. And Scald is just like, in that case, it just straight up is worse than stuff like Surf, and actually it ends up being relevant because Tapu Fini ends up throwing out 2 Skulls against Metagross and not knocking it out and getting knocked out itself in return. Whereas, at least assuming that my calcs were correct, Surf actually would have, or if you want to be even more greedy, Hydro Pump.
Yeah. So, no one wants to miss. I understand the no hydro pump rule.
Yeah, I've run Specs Feeny in the past and missed like 3 Hydro Pumps against IDM.
Now I will actually go ahead and because we've been criticizing Mass a little bit, and I feel like we need to give him at least a little credit here because the Como switch on the Spectrier is honestly a very solid play. Bulletproof,
Yeah,
Shadow Ball, it's great, and
yeah,
Mass definitely had the right idea here.
yeah. Spectrier is a little bit of a one-trick pony. It has like next to no type coverage, so most of the time you can expect this thing to either be scarfed or specced. And it just kind of comes in and starts clicking Shadow Ball. And Mass just happens to have the perfect solution for it.
Yep.
Combo O has Bulletproof, and Bulletproof prevents a very weird set of moves. I always find it very hard to internalize what it does and does not prevent.
Yeah, I've honestly at this point I've just given up on trying to remember. I know Shadow Ball for certain. I believe Seed Bomb and Focus Blast, and those are the only ones I remember.
Well, those are like pretty common ones. But yeah, the relevant one here is definitely that it negates Shadow Ball. So now you have a situation where Spectre is in against Como, presumably choice or only with like neutral normal type options. And Como is able to sort of set up for free. And Como actually has a terrifying setup combination of Substitute and Belly Drum with a Salic Berry.
Yeah, which we see right away, which while is a fantastic idea because it does just run through most of Scoots' team, there is one Pokemon that really doesn't give a shit, and that is unfortunately Scizor, which comes out and immediately revenge kills Como.
Yeah, the Reuniclus is able to take care of the substitute on the turn that it's belly drums, and then dies in the subsequent turn. And then, sadly, the Scizor just comes out, bullet punches it, and kills it. Had Mass known that, he might have tried to save it a little bit longer. But then again, Mass really didn't have much to deal with Spectre in the first place. And while I personally I like this combo set because it's like super fucking offensive and very like scary to go up against. It's just, he needed something to deal with the Spectre reliably, and the rest of his team wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, this was definitely a match where as soon as Rhyperior had killed 3 Pokemon, it was honestly over. There wasn't really coming back from this.
Yeah, it was just sort of like...
Especially with how low health Metagross got from what it was. I think it was Feeny. Yeah, it was Feeny.
Feeny spamming skulls at it.
Yeah, that was definitely like sealing the fate there because you kind of needed Metagross to have a decent amount of health to be able to stand up against Reuniclus.
Mm-hmm. And like the 3 Pokemon Mass eventually was left with were Como, Mew, and Metagross, 2 of which just literally don't stand a chance against Spectre. Spectre will knock both of them out of the park. So like, as the Como was kind of like a necessary part of the core that was still alive. But given like how limited options were at that point, there wasn't a lot Mass could have done to still recover from that situation.
Yeah. That being said, the match was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
Definitely. If it wasn't for Scizor being in the back, being insurance against the Como sweep, that could have gone far, but sadly it was not to be. So I really think this one just sort of comes down to Mass getting to grips with Pokemon a little bit more, perhaps trying to learn how to use the damage calculator. And make sure to input all variables. If Sandstorm up, put Sandstorm. If there's rocks on the field, put those up. Because if you don't, then you are definitely able to be fucked over.
That's definitely pulled a Whiteloaf this game and just clicked buttons that looked.
Yeah, but I feel I still feel Mass's draft is good. I feel especially like given that we do have like a bunch more people that are newer to the game.
Oh yeah.
It's just sort of like rough because the way the first matches tend to go is like the bottom seeded person has to go up against the top seeded person of their given division. So the first week tends to be like a bit of like polarizing matches.
Yeah. That being said, it's still not impossible. I still remember
So
last season with a fucking Sky just blazing through with his fucking Pikachu.
yeah. Don't remind me.
I tried to forget. Alright, anything else on Scoot
I think that's all for Scoots vs. Matt. I think we can move on to the Schaumburg Salamences versus the Neerdowell Nidokings. GTP Woody versus Kenneth.
GTP being the Salamences, Nidokings being Kenneth. So, Kenneth has, in my opinion, one of the scariest teams. Like, just
Kenneth,
right off the bat.
Yeah, Kenneth offensively has a terrifying team. Sadly, does fall short defensively real quick. And the game, this match actually starts out with some fire interactions.
Oh yeah.
It kicks off with Machamp facing down. What is it? Drillbird. What is Drillbird?
So it starts off Camp going up against
Rhydon.
Yeah, Rhydon. To which, obviously seeing that GTP is instantly like, nah, I don't want to die, and then he goes into his Dragapult.
Yeah, he goes into Dragapult, predicts Dynamic Punch, so now he's sort of like, Dragapult's in against Machamp.
Yeah.
Presumably that gives him the advantage. Depends sort of on the set that he's running.
Yeah, so, he goes substitute first, maybe trying to get like a Dragon Dance or something going off first.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Darkest Slayer is going to take care of that. He goes for Phantom Force, and then No Guard actually goes through Phantom Force. It's something that I learned today that not many people actually knew.
Yeah, so basically Phantom Force is a 2-turn move. The first turn it's sort of like Fly, where you vanish, you're not able to be hit, and on the second turn you hit. Except, No Guard on Machamp makes it so that it cannot miss. So Darkest Lariat is still able to hit it and just kills it immediately.
Yep, and I do not know this 100%, but I do believe No Guard does also work similar ways against moves like Fly, Dive as well. So
I do believe so. I think it might even work against Dig.
Yeah, I'm like 90% certain, but there's still that 10% chance that I am wrong. So just keep that in mind. But still, that's something to be aware of when you're building your team against Kenneth.
Yeah, definitely keep in mind that No Guard has funky interactions with 2-turn moves. Then again, most people tend not to use those anyway. Yeah, anyway, the match sort of like keeps going south for Woody after this. He comes in with Noivern and gets instantly knocked out with Stone Edge.
Yep.
And the Hurricane on it does not end up killing Machamp. It's possible that the thing was AV.
I think it is AV. Yeah,
it makes sense.
You don't really need that much power on Machamp. You typically just need bulk.
That's true, but sort of looking at the Hurricane ends up doing 59% of Machamp's health, means that even if it wasn't AV, it would have done roughly like around 90, so it wouldn't have killed regardless.
Yeah. Noivern, sadly not the strongest tool. This play still confuses me. The Custap Bulldoze.
Yeah, so later in the match, Cameron proves to have some trouble against Woody's Hippowdon. It just sort of refuses to die to a lot of things. He sends in Crustle, sets up rocks, and then for some reason it's carrying Bulldoze. It might have been to try and slow down Dragapult.
I think the Bulldoze was actually probably for Sharpedo, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, maybe try to prevent something like from that thing just sweeping and outspeeding his whole team. Because I think if GTP got the setup with Sharpedo, he could go through a lot of his team.
I feel Kenneth had answers for that though. As we learned later in the match as well, Alakazam was sashed and was able to live one hit regardless.
Yeah.
the hail from Ninetales always would have sort of like chipped away at it.
Yeah, but you still, you always want more than one.
I know, but Machamp probably was carrying Bullet Punch too, which would have done a significant amount to it, even if it is resisted.
Yeah.
Sharpedo is not a
It's
very bulky Pokemon.
Yeah, it's not exactly bulky, but anyways, after Crustle dies, like you said, we get in that Tapu Lele. Oh, it sets up terrain and just kind of dies instantly, but then the star of the show comes in.
Yeah, then the Alakazam comes in, and this Alakazam is terrifying, especially in Psychic terrain. Because the first thing it just goes for is Expanding Force, which Expanding Force is... Let me quickly check the details on how much base power that is.
I believe it is base 80 100. I'm pretty sure it's base 80, but in Psychic terrain, the base power is literally doubled. So you have a base 160 power move with stab boost and Psychic terrain boost is a 1.3 player.
So yeah, it's 80 base power. It gets plus 1.5 times power in Psychic terrain. So that's 120 base power. Then it gets boosted by Psychic terrain, which I think is another 50% boost. So that would put it to 180, and then you get Stab, which boosts it to 270.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what the effects of Psychic terrain is, you basically, if you go for a priority move, so like let's say I go for Quick Attack or Bullet Punch or something like that, it will not work if the opponent is grounded. So against Alakazam, you can't really, out prioritize it. You have to outspeed it, which Alakazam, that's a fast Pokemon.
Yeah, Alakazam is like a ridiculously fast Pokemon. Dragapult is capable of outspeeding it, just sort of like naturally. But if Woody, for instance, prepared like a Sucker Punch on Dragapult, which I know it gets, that wouldn't have worked because of the Psychic terrain.
Yeah. Plus, alongside that, there's still the upper. Like, obviously, we know now because we've watched this, we've analyzed. But for all Woody could have known, this could have been a scarfed Alakazam. They just kept clicking Expanding Force. But then again, like you said, like we see here, he's got Sharpedo on the screen right now. So if he goes for Expanding Force again, not gonna work out that well.
Yeah, but then Woody brings in Copperajah, and Copperajah, this thing also has a dummy amount of health, kind of like Guzzlord in that aspect. And I guess Kenneth did not feel like risking a Focus Blast, or perhaps he calculated and figured out that Focus Blast would not kill them one shot.
It could have also been AV as well, now that I think about it, but yeah.
Yeah. So he ends up going for,
goes for a counter.
He goes for counter. So he ends up going second because counter makes you go last by default. Gets hit by Heavy Slam, which puts Alakazam all the way at 1% of its HP. And then he hits back twice as hard and is able to hold on because of Focus Sash.
So I'm going to go ahead and be a little unbiased here for a second. That was a godlike play.
That's a fire set.
Yeah, like honestly, this is probably the most fire Alakazam set I've ever seen.
I don't think it's the most fire set I've ever seen. Counter Alakazam definitely has been used in the past, but it is something like you don't usually see. It's something you have to sort of like you have to dust it off out of the closet, treat it with some love.
I've never been privy to counter Alakazam. So as a first time counter Alakazam seer, thank you, Kenneth. Thank you for this blessing upon my eyes. I appreciate it.
I think it's definitely one of the most fire sets we've seen this week in this division at the very least.
Oh, absolutely.
At least from things that we have seen.
Yeah.
Because there are some Pokemon which just straight up never hit the battlefield. Because like, who knows? Like that, a lot of Ninetales might have been Aurora Veil, Ice Shards, Draining Kiss. I don't know.
Hey.
Who's to say? It never hit the field, so we don't know.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, after Copperajah is taken care of, Alakazam just Expanding Force, and yeah, that's the 4-0. That's the 40.
Yeah, Expanding Force and just wipes the floor of the rest of the team, and Kenneth comes out on top, and I feel very well deserved win very well played and definitely very well prepared with the counter.
I do think if GTP had kept his Powdon a little bit more healthy and sort of, I don't know. I think this was kind of a rough matchup. I think after he lost Polt, there wasn't really a whole lot he could have done to the Alakazam, but it's hard to really say. I think I'd have to go back and watch this one like 50 times to really be able to see what he could have done differently.
Yeah. I mean, the Sharpedo was still alive at this point, which presumably had speed boost, and also Noivern naturally outspeeds Alakazam, which didn't have speed boosting item on its own.
Yeah.
So there still were some answers that Woody had. Sadly, like after Dragapult fell, Noivern fell.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like downhill from there.
Yeah, this is a rough matchup.
Yeah. But I definitely hope that, in future matches we can see, perhaps, Crustle going in with like some Shell Smash nonsense. Dragapult hopefully not getting one shot due to interactions that everybody might be aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still, it was the first week, there's still hope for everybody.
It's true. And, another thing that I think help Woody out here is while Dragapult does have more physical stats, it is also a really good special attacker. And I think if he could utilize that, I think this match would have gone a lot different if he was running a special Dragapult set.
That's true. Dragapult, it has 120 base physical attack and only 100 base special attack, but its special move pool is really good. You've got stuff like water type coverage, electric type coverage.
Fire coverage as well.
Fire coverage, that's true.
Yeah.
It's like it can cover its own like checks very well. And it also has sort of like U-turn, which you don't need to run physical attack for U-turn. Just run that for the utility.
And then, of course you've got, your stab, Shadow Ball, and, even though it is a lower, like, base 100 special attack, that's still nothing to necessarily sneeze at. Like, that's still going to hurt.
Yeah, it's sort of a bit funky because like it does have the higher physical attack, and its signature move, Dragon Darts, is also physical. But like it's just a lot easier to counter the physical variant than it is the special variant.
Plus, you can never go wrong with Draco Meteor. I mean, you can because it will miss, but
Yeah, but I think that's about everything for this match.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with just one more.
Good old Haunted Mansion Gengars versus Brussels Espeons. Haunted Mansion Gengars being another newcomer, Phantom Knight, and Brussels Espeons being IDM, a longtime champion of DDD, even before DDD was really, formed.
Yeah, IDM has been good at this game, presumably since he was born. We have no evidence to back that claim up, but also you have no evidence against us. So
my running theory right now is that IDM he's not a real person. He's like a computer that was made in a government lab, and his only purpose is to be good at Pokemon and to make just everyone suffer around him.
Yeah.
I'm joking. We love IDM.
We love IDM, and IDM has been playing consistently since not just Season 1 of the Double Dip League, but since Season 1 of the SSL, and even managed to win one of those, I'm pretty sure.
Like 90%.
Yeah. But yeah, this match, we start off, let's get to that, it's Silvally, and this Silvally is actually very interesting.
Yeah,
because it's a normal type.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is just regular Silvally. There's nothing going on with it. Which I don't think I've ever seen just normal default Silvally, so I'm kind of curious at what else he had on this thing, but sadly we don't ever really get to see it, I don't think.
Yeah, literally this opening turn is the only turn Silvally is on the field. It's just to show off that it's a normal type, and then it just fucks off again. But yeah, Silvally here turns out, and then we get into the situation where we have two Reggies against one another.
Yep, Regieleki being in case you don't know, Regieleki is obviously one of the new Pokemon with Ground Tundra, and it is a terrifying monster. It has the highest base speed stat of any Pokemon,
Yeah, base
and
200.
yeah, and while its special attack is, I think, only base 100, its ability Transistor greatly increases its stab move. I think it's like a 1.5 multiplier.
Yeah, it basically gives like double stab, which is actually better than just better than adaptability, because 1.5 times 1.5 is 2.25, whereas adaptability just makes it 2 times.
Yeah.
Sadly, in this specific match, it ends up mattering very little, because it comes in, it rapid spins away the stealth rocks that Registeel set up in the previous turn, and then gets disposed of instantly with an earthquake.
Yeah, so thankfully, the monster is dead.
Yeah, Regieleki is IDM's S tier pick, or tier 1 pick, the theoretical strongest Pokemon on IDM's team.
And, another thing to take into account, just in case, you don't know, while Regieleki is terrifying to go up against, it does have one fatal flaw in that it only has electric and ancient power.
Electric moves, ancient power, and normal moves.
Yeah.
And
so
that's where it ends.
Yeah, so while it is a terrifying monster, if you have a Pokemon like Phantom Knight has, Electivire, which has a signature ability called Motor Drive, which absorbs electric attacks and increases its speed when it hits by it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really care about it. It's just kind of there.
It is very easy to wall. It's just sort of like as soon as the resistance is gone, it tends to run through. But again, now we are on turn 2 and it's already dead. So Phantom Knight actually starts off very well here, putting itself in a 5 to 6 advantage.
And even against the Cobalion, he doesn't give it a beat. He takes. Oh no, he goes into Tornadus. That's right.
So like he goes into Tornadus, like, which presumably is like the switch in he had in mind for Cobalion, which is admittedly a pretty good switch in.
Yeah, he does get a little though in going for the nasty plot.
Yeah, sadly he thinks that he is safe and just goes for nasty plot, where Cobalion, it does actually bear a number of coverage options. In this case, the Stone Age is able to dispatch of it quite quickly.
Yeah.
And he's forced to switch out into Electivire.
Yeah, which I'm kind of surprised that Electivire took a critical hit from Cobalion.
Yeah.
But, it still dies to life.
Electivire has like an okay amount of bulk. It's sort of like it's okay-ish fast, it hits okay-ish hard, it has okay-ish bolt. It's just okay-ish all around. It's just not good at anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a couple of turns later is when we get to see the real star of the show. In this particular match, Scolipede gets switched in.
Oh yeah. Scolipede is. I think Scolipede is probably one of the most slept on like OU mons.
Yeah, so Scolipede, Bug Poison, it's got a pretty good like physical attack, and Poison is like a decent offensive typing. Not a lot of things resist Poison, though it does have like immunities.
But that being said, Scolipede's also got great coverage thanks to having Earthquake. So if you bring in a Steel type on like Poison Jab, it's just gonna get Earthquaked.
Yeah, and importantly for this match, it actually has Speed Boost, and Speed Boost makes it so that at the end of every turn, if the Pokemon is in, it gets 1 extra stage of speed. So this thing, in 2 turns, outruns everything, even Regieleki, which is ridiculous.
It is absolutely insane, and
it's got a setup move too. Phantom does end up going for Sword Stance, but it does get reduced by 1 due to Quillfish's Intimidate.
Yeah, and then he does get Thunder Waves, but like even with +2 speed and paralysis, like he's still faster than Quillfish, and I think if I remember correctly, a lot of his other mons as well. Like I think his IDM's fastest mon is actually this Quillfish. Or no, it's Savali, but Scolipede still outspeeds it.
Yeah, it actually, like, Scolipede does manage to get, I'm pretty sure, to max speed before it ends up going out eventually. But Scolipede is also where we sort of do see Phantom Knight's sort of, new-ishness. Because, like, Scolipede is in against the Quillfish, and Scolipede is at +1 attack now due to the combination of Sword Stance and getting intimidated once. So at this point, he didn't really need to make predictions anymore. He just sort of needed to keep hitting what was in front of him. But he ends up going for like Poison Jab and Mega Horn against Quillfish rather than just Earthquaking it, which would probably have knocked it out.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would have out, honestly. Well, actually, hold on a second. Did Quillfish reveal his item? Yeah, it was a Black Sludge, so yeah, it definitely would have knocked it out. There was absolutely no reason to not go for Earthquake. Like, even if IDM went into Dragonite, which is the only thing I could really see, like, coming out against Scolipede, you know, you just Poison Jab it immediately after. Then you're at least breaking the multi-scale.
Yeah, but while sort of IDM's team is sort of having a lot of trouble against the Scolipede, it's dealing a lot of damage and wearing down a lot of its Pokemon. Grimmsnarl does come in. It has Prankster, which gives its +1 priority on special, or not special moves, the non-damaging moves.
Yeah.
So in this case, it uses its time to set up both Reflect and Light Screen, being able to just barely live due to Reflex. And after that, in comes Dragonite, which is able to dispatch of Scolipede with a quick, easy, extreme speed, after it had already like sort of worn down itself with Life Orb damage. And very understandably, Venomite goes into Primarina and goes for a Fairy type move. Yep. And procs Dragonite's multi-skill weakness policy.
I mean, it does also proc the multi-scale as well.
Yeah.
It activates it, which, if you don't know what multi-scale does, basically, if your Pokemon is at full health, it takes, what, I think like half the damage it would normally. Yeah. Which, you know, couple that with both Reflect and Light Screen, nothing is killing Dragonite in one hit.
Yeah, so basically, like, it would have taken only 25% damage from any hit. So you would have had to hit it for something that would have killed it 4 times over in order to one-shot it, which was never going to happen.
Yeah.
So...
And he gets the weakness policy, which, if you get hit by a super effective move, it gets you a +2 physical attack and +2 special attack.
Yeah, so suddenly you just become an offensive powerhouse. That in combination with that IDM goes for Dragon Dance that turn too, which gives it 1 extra attack and +1 speed as well.
Now you have just a monster that really can't die.
Yeah, and that is still behind screens. Like, despite the fact that the multi-scale is broken now, so like it will just be taking 50% from any like move used against it, it's still not taking a lot. So like at this point, I like from the moment Dragonite comes in, Ventonite was in a lot of trouble if he didn't expect what IDM was going for, which you know, obviously he didn't. And honestly, really the only counterplay options left that would have still shut down IDM at this point would have either to burn Dragonites or to go for a Brick Break, which would have both broken multi-scale, broken both screens, and then left Dragonite open and vulnerable again. Not that I think Electivire might have been the only thing on Ventonite's team able to carry that.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, so like it was sort of like over already, and it's just that he ended up fucking himself over even more with super effective move. But if he didn't go for a super effective move, then IDM would have just set up like another Dragon Dance or even 2 more Dragon Dances. Yeah, and he would have like won regardless.
Yeah, there's not really a lot you can do when it sets up screens and brings out a Dragonite.
Yeah, it was something he sort of like had to be prepared for at team building, which Ventonite probably wasn't at this point, because it's not something everybody's going to be bringing. I know IDM is sort of like a little bit infamous for using a lot of screens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that in combination with the Dragonite and the weakness policy, it's not the most fire set, because the Dragonite tends to run weakness policy because of like multi-scale weakness policy. It's already like good enough usually.
Yeah, but you know, couple that with Grimmsnarl's screen. Honestly, the synergy between those two is actually like, I don't ever want to fight IDM.
Let's just hope IDM never makes it out of Division 1, but you know, given his track record, IDM is already looking pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, Dragonite has like a ridiculous amount of boosts and sweeps the rest of Ventonite's team.
Yeah.
So I actually find this match very interesting because Van Knight started out well. He sort of kept up his momentum with the Scolipede as well. It's just sort of when he sort of started struggling with what moves to use with the Scolipedes, it's sort of when it started falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, I think if Phantom Knight had played Scolipede, sorry, Scolipede a little bit better. He had just gone for Earthquake against the Quillfish. Might have been a pretty different game. He could have even set up another Sword Stance if he really wanted to. That would have helped, as well. But just he didn't.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of what hurt him the most.
Yeah, I feel if he was able to get off the a poison jab against Dragonite, I'm not sure how much that would have done exactly, but it would have broken multi-scale. With some luck, it would have poisoned it too.
Yeah.
And potentially from there, I'm not sure exactly how many boosts Dragonite needs in order to knock out Primarina, in one shot.
Considering it's physical, I don't think it needs that much, just because Primarina is kind of frail on the physical side.
Yeah. Dragonite does have 134 base attacks. I guess it wouldn't need too many boosts.
Yeah. But so it definitely would have been a little bit closer at least.
Yeah. I feel Phantom Knight played it well. I guess really the only real notice, with the Scolipedes, try to sort of gauge whether or not you need to make predictions or if just clicking the super effective move is good enough for now. Because the only real thing IDM had at the moment, while Scolipede was being a problem, was sort of keep switching out and switching back into Quillfish to keep using Intimidate and lower its attack that way.
This is another one where I think honestly the calc is your best friend. If you're unsure about what move to go for, what's going to be your best option, open up the good old calc, run some numbers. If this is good, then that's probably the move you go for.
Mm-hmm. And also, just sort of calculating. One thing I find very important to do, at least personally, is if something hits you, you always know your own spread, so you can sort of calculate from there what kind of set your opponent is running. So you can sort of gauge are they bulky, are they not bulky. So yeah, there's a lot of information that can be gained from calculating and sort of knowing how to both use and read that information. But yeah, I think that runs up week 1. We've been through a lot. There's been heartbreaking misses. There's been reverse sweeps, and there's been displays of dominance. So I feel, we're looking very good for this season.
Season is off to a very good start, and this is only week 1. There are how many weeks? Then?
7.
7. I guess I was close. I was gonna say 8 or 9.
Each division has 8 people. You don't have to fight yourself, so you have to fight 7 opponents.
I don't know. The greatest battle is against yourself.
That is true.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for the Week 1 Division 1 recap. I have been your host, Aurora. This has been Nick, and we'll wish you all best of luck in future weeks.
Bye.